Your mind is not the problem. It's the map you've been given. Let's begin with a strange confession. Most of the time when you say you're anxious, you're not actually anxious. You're awake. You are aware, alert, and tuned into the overwhelming strangeness of modern life. You're not malfunctioning, you're perceiving more than you're supposed to. But because society has no language for spiritual alertness, we label it a disorder. We panic about the panic. But Alan Watts once said something that completely shattered this illusion. He said, "The reason you are so anxious is not because of the situation, but because of your attempt to escape it." And right there, the whole game breaks open. Because what if the anxiety you're feeling isn't evidence that something is wrong with you, but that something's finally waking up inside you? A deeper noticing, a sacred disturbance. And what if the real problem is that you're trying to suppress the very feeling that's trying to save you?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's pause here. Imagine you're walking through a dense, dark forest. Suddenly you hear a distant howl, a crack of branches. Your heart races. Adrenaline floods your body. Is that anxiety, or is that awareness? If your body didn't react, that would be the problem. But here's the thing, most of us live in a metaphorical forest all day long. We are constantly surrounded by noise, manipulation, artificial urgency, emotional dishonesty. We feel the signals of danger, yet we're told we're overreacting. We're told to breathe, calm down, do yoga, take pills, drink more water, download another productivity app. But very few people say, maybe this isn't anxiety. Maybe this is what it feels like when your awareness expands beyond the illusion you were raised in. Because that's a dangerous thought. It implies that society is structured to gaslight the awakened. And it is. Alan Watts pointed out something most people still haven't understood. Modern culture is built on separation. We are raised to believe that we are separate from nature, from other people, even from ourselves. And that illusion creates tension because deep down, our nervous systems know it's false. We are meant to feel connected, embedded, part of something larger. But instead, we're taught to be isolated units, each chasing individual success, fighting private battles, competing for attention. And when your deeper self sees through that lie, it doesn't stay silent. It screams in the language of anxiety, not to punish you, but to awaken you, to force you to stop and ask, what exactly am I so anxious about? Let's go deeper. You wake up in the morning and immediately check your phone. Before your body has even remembered who it is, your mind is already absorbing messages, notifications, headlines, endless unfinished tasks. You don't even have time to think your own thoughts. That's not peace, it's psychic trespassing. And yet we call this normal. We call it keeping up. No wonder we walk around with our chests tight and our thoughts racing. Alan Watts warned us that most people are miserable precisely because they are trying so hard to be happy. They run from silence, escape from presence, and then wonder why life feels unreal. But it's not you who is broken. It's the script you're following. A script that says the purpose of life is to arrive somewhere, success, enlightenment, security, only to find that when you get there, the goalpost has moved again. This is not life. It's a treadmill. And anxiety is the body's way of saying, get off. Now, let me ask you something that might sound strange. When was the last time you let yourself feel anxious without resisting it? Without labeling it, fixing it, hiding it? Most of us panic at the first sign of unease. But what if unease is the beginning of truth? Watts said, trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You can't escape your awareness. You are the awareness. And what we call anxiety is often just your awakening self refusing to be ignored. It's the death of autopilot. It's the collapse of shallow certainty. It's the moment you realize that the world doesn't make sense in the way you were told it does. And that realization is not a problem. It's a portal. Alan Watts believed that the root of suffering is our refusal to live fully in the present. We are haunted by the past, obsessed with the future, and terrified of what's happening right now. We try to escape life while still pretending to live it. But the moment you stop running, when you finally sit still and say, okay, let's feel this, something shifts. The anxiety loses its grip, because now you're not resisting. You're listening. And what you hear might surprise you. You hear your aliveness. You hear the sacred unease that arises when you wake up inside a world that demands numbness. You hear your soul stretching against the walls of a false identity. And suddenly you realize this isn't anxiety. This is truth trying to breathe. Let's not sugarcoat it, though awakening hurts. It hurts because it dissolves every comforting lie you've built your life around. It dismantles your narratives. It forces you to confront the fact that the way you've been living might not actually be living. But that pain is not an enemy. It is the labor of becoming real. The world will offer you 1,000 distractions to escape that labor. But if you endure the discomfort and listen deeper, you'll start to see that your anxiety has never been the enemy. It has always been your most honest teacher. You see, the culture we live in teaches us to numb what we feel. But Alan Watts taught that feeling fully fear, confusion, chaos, even dread is the only path back to real life. Not the life of schedules and status, the life of sensation, the life of wonder, the life of radical presence. But to get there, you have to stop fighting your mind. You have to stop calling your awakening a disorder. You have to stop confusing depth with dysfunction. You're not too sensitive. You're not broken. You're not mentally weak. You're awake. And that makes you dangerous to the system. Now ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped trying to fix my anxiety and started listening to it instead? What is it really saying? What is it pointing to? Because I promise you this, anxiety doesn't show up to ruin your life. It shows up to rescue you from it. And once you see that, you can never unsee it. The stillness beneath the storm, how to use awareness instead of fighting it. Let's unravel something crucial here. You are not your thoughts. You are the one hearing them. But if no one ever teaches you that, the moment your thoughts begin to speed up, spiraling, looping, echoing, you panic. You assume that the chaos in your mind is you, and that illusion is the beginning of suffering. Alan Watts said it best, the mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. But here's the problem: no one ever shows us how to use it rightly. Instead, we are raised in a culture that weaponizes the mind against us. A culture that equates busyness with value, analysis with intelligence, comparison with success. So we live entirely in the upper levels of consciousness, thinking, planning, judging, calculating, and never sink into the stillness that was always meant to be our home. No wonder the mind turns on us. It's like using a compass to build a house. It was never made for that. Imagine this: you are sitting by a river. The water is flowing rapidly, muddy, full of debris. That's your surface mind, cluttered, fast, reactive. But if you go just a few feet below, everything changes. The water becomes still, clear, silent. That's your true awareness. That's what Alan Watts called the watcher, the witness beneath the noise. But most of us never reach that depth because we're trapped at the surface trying to control the river with more thought, more force, more analysis. But what if the only way to calm the river is to stop trying? What if peace doesn't come from fixing the thoughts, but from stepping back from them? Not pushing them away, not labeling them, not fighting them, but observing them with total curiosity, like clouds passing through an infinite sky. That sky is you. And once you realize that, a strange and beautiful thing happens. You stop fearing your own mind. You stop labeling yourself as anxious every time the weather gets stormy. You realize that thoughts come and go, but your awareness, the space that holds them, is untouched. And that awareness is not stressed. It's not broken. It's not dysfunctional. It just is. Watts often said, muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. The anxiety we feel, more often than not, is not caused by the original thought, it's caused by our resistance to it. We tense up, judge ourselves, rehearse catastrophe, and the spiral begins. But what if, the next time you felt that wave rising, you didn't resist? What if you met it like an old friend, sat beside it, and said, "You again? Let's breathe through this together." Of course, that sounds poetic, but you may be thinking, how do I actually do that? That's where the practice comes in. You don't fight the mind with the mind. You return to the body. You return to breath. You return to presence. Anxiety is always future-focused. What if this happens? What if I fail? What if I never feel okay again? But the body doesn't live in the future. It lives here, now, right under your skin. And the more often you return to it through sensation, movement, stillness, the more you remind your nervous system that the present moment is not dangerous, that you are not under threat, that you are already home. But let's get real for a moment. This is not easy. Why? Because society profits from your disconnection. It needs you anxious. It needs you questioning yourself. It needs you to believe that if you just do more, buy more, optimize more, improve more, you'll finally feel okay. But you never do, because you were never meant to. That's the system's trap, perpetual dissatisfaction. And your mind, it was trained in that system. So when your thoughts spin, when your chest tightens, when your heart races, don't ask what's wrong with you. Ask, what have I been taught to believe that isn't true? Because here's the radical truth. The system wants you anxious because anxious people are easy to manipulate. But awakened people, present people, calm people, they're dangerous. They question. They slow down. They stop buying what they don't need. They stop chasing validation. They start trusting their intuition. And suddenly, the whole house of cards begins to tremble. Alan Watts knew this. That's why his work was so subversive. He didn't teach people how to become more successful. He taught people how to stop pretending they weren't already whole. And that kind of teaching, it shakes the foundations of everything. So if you've ever felt broken, lost, anxious, confused, understand this. Those feelings are not signs of failure. They are signs that you are waking up inside a world that's built on illusion. You were never meant to find peace by climbing the ladder. You were meant to find peace by stepping off it. You were never meant to think your way to joy. You were meant to feel your way there. And if that feels foreign good, it means you're leaving the script. You're not malfunctioning. You're breaking free. Let me leave you with this question. If anxiety is just awareness without grounding, then what could happen if you became grounded enough to fully trust your awareness? What would change if you no longer feared your inner life but became curious about it? Because once you start asking those questions, you begin to shift. You begin to soften. You begin to listen to yourself not as a problem to solve, but as a mystery to explore. And that is where the real journey begins. In the final part, we're going to step fully into the transformation. You'll learn how to turn your anxiety into a daily practice of awakening. We'll talk about surrender, trust, non-resistance, and how to live like the river, not against the flow, but with it. We'll bring everything together into one final revelation, where Alan Watts' most profound lesson isn't just understood, it's embodied. The flow you've been searching for has always been you. Let's bring everything together now, not as a theory, but as a way of being. Because you've probably noticed by now, the root of what we call anxiety isn't always fear. Often, it's friction. You feel it when your soul pulls in one direction while your habits pull in another. When your awareness expands but your lifestyle stays small. That's why it hurts. That's why it loops. You're not meant to suppress your awakening. You're meant to integrate it. And this is where Alan Watts leads us to the most radical truth of all, that the very moment you stop resisting what is, the war inside you ends. Not because you defeated anxiety, but because you stopped calling it the enemy. Think about it. You've spent so much time trying to get rid of these feelings, thinking they're obstacles in your path. But what if they are the path? What if the discomfort is not something to conquer, but something to understand? Watts said, "The desire for security and the feeling of insecurity are the same thing." In other words, the more you crave certainty, the more anxious you become. But why? Because you're trying to control what can't be controlled: life, a future, change, death. And your resistance to these things creates a gap between you and the world. But when you stop resisting, when you stop demanding that the moment behave the way you want it to, something breathtaking happens. You fall back into the flow. That flow? That's what you've been searching for all along. But here's the twist. It was never something out there to find. It's the nature of what you are. Alan Watts described it beautifully. He said, "You are the universe experiencing itself." Not in some poetic sense, but literally. You are not in the flow. You are the flow. But as long as you're trying to grasp it, to control it, to outperform it, you feel anxious because you are living in resistance to your own nature. The solution, then, is not to push harder, think faster, or heal quicker. The solution is surrender. Not the passive kind, but the courageous kind. The kind that says, "I will no longer treat this moment like a mistake." So let's make this practical. How do you surrender without giving up? How do you trust the present without becoming reckless? You begin with one breath, not the kind you force, the kind you allow. A breath that doesn't change you but returns you to what's already whole. You feel your body, not to fix it, but to feel it. You don't need to banish thoughts. You just watch them float by, like birds across a vast sky. You speak to your anxiety with kindness. "You are welcome here," you say. "You are not a curse. You are my call to wake up." And then you drop into your senses. You feel your feet on the ground, the air on your skin, the aliveness underneath the story. This is not a trick. This is presence. And presence is power. But let's go even deeper. What happens when anxiety shows up not in thoughts, but in the body? The tight chest, the racing heart, the sinking gut. We're taught to fear these sensations, to label them as panic, as danger. But Alan Watts would invite you to ask, who is afraid of the feeling? Not in theory, but in direct experience. Sit with that sensation. Let it burn. Let it teach you. Because what you'll find if you stay long enough is that beneath the panic is presence. Beneath the trembling is truth. The body isn't betraying you. It's communicating with you in the only language it knows: sensation. And when you listen without panic, it transforms. Not because you changed it, but because you finally stopped running. And now we come to the final revelation. Alan Watts always pointed to one core idea, that the self we are trying to fix is not real. The ego, the voice that says, "I am anxious, I need to get better, I am not enough," is not the true you. It is a performance, a mask, a wave forgetting it's part of the ocean. But the moment you see through it, even for a breath, you return to what you've always been: awareness. Not the small, anxious self, but the vast, formless space that holds all experience. And from that place, there is nothing to fix, nothing to chase, nothing to fear. Because how can the sky be anxious about the weather? It holds everything and resists nothing. That is what you are. You are not anxious. You are awake. You are not behind. You are already home. You are not failing. You are unfolding. And every single thought, fear, and sensation, yes, even the painful ones, are part of that unfolding. You do not need to solve them. You only need to witness them, or to breathe with them, to let them pass through you like wind through an open window. The more you do that, the more life stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a dance. So the next time anxiety shows up, don't panic. Smile. Bow. Say thank you, because your soul is reminding you of something society tried to make you forget. You are already free. You just needed to remember. And if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this: you are not here to escape life. You are here to experience it fully, fearfully, gloriously, as the unfolding miracle it has always been. Now go. Not to fix yourself, but to be yourself.